All right, everybody. Pete Hanson here of Pete Hanson Football, Conversations with Coaches. Today, after a little bit of a hiatus due to the fall football season, I'm here with Coach Chris Sanborn of Plymouth High School, Plymouth Regional High School, Plymouth, New Hampshire. Longtime coach up here, and I'm happy to be able to film today, talk a little bit of football. Two old guys that we actually played, well, older guys, not old guys. We played football together at Plymouth State as well, so we'll talk a little bit about that too. But really interested in your progression from, when you grew up, player, coach, and all that. And let's start with where you're from and how did you get into football?
Well, thanks for having me. First of all, we are a little bit older now. We're down to Joe Ukeka Huddle the other day, and I looked around the room, and I'm like, Jesus criminy, we are the old guys, you know what I mean? I was a little shocked, just looking around saying, geez, how did I become one of these, the older guy in the room? But I grew up in Wentworth, New Hampshire, which is in the Plymouth school district. It's up the valley, Baker Valley, towards like.
Because this is a regional school.
It's a pretty. The thing people don't realize it's a very big land area that comes to school here. So where I grew up, coming to high school here was like a 25-minute drive.
Yep.
So you could choose back then. You could choose to go to Woodsville High School, Plymouth High School, or at the time Orford High School, which is now Rivendell High School. So you had a choice. My sisters were coming here, so that's where I came And we didn't have football. At that time, you could only play football if you went to Plymouth Elementary School. They had tackle football.
Oh, okay.
So all the other schools, like, there's like 8 elementary schools that feed into here.
Yep.
K to 8. So, which is a little unique and complicated at times. But so like you have like Campton Elementary School, Thornton Elementary School, you got Waterville Valley, Plymouth, Rumney, Wentworth, Holderness. Yeah, Ashland. So it's pretty unique, So, but we had at the time, flag football.
Yeah,
and it was 11 on 11 flag football.
Wow,
it was rough and aggressive, and we loved it. But so it kind of funneled you right into tackle football. Of course, the kids that went to Plymouth had an advantage because they didn't do flag football; they did tackle. They played the other schools, and
right from middle school.
So a little bit of an advantage, but you caught up. So it was a lot of fun. That's how I got into football, and did that, and played football through high school, and then of course. I played in a Shrine game like you did. I played for Paul Levine.
Paul Levine, who we've talked to.
And his son Andy was on the team, so that was a lot of fun. And of course, Paul's daughter Lauren's at the college.
What year was that?
That was the summer of 92.
92.
We played, It was pretty good, Tony Trisciani was on the team. There's a bunch of good guys on that team.
So back to your high school experience here. Who was the head coach, and how was that experience with? How did you guys do?
So I played here for Chuck Lenahan, and
the legendary
Chuck Lenahan, for 48 years or whatever.
300 wins. Right. Is he still a top 3? Did O'Reilly pass him?
O'Reilly passed him, I think, last year, but I don't know. I don't know the difference, like who's 2, 3. I think Chuck had passed Rod Watton at one time. I remember Rod Watton had been at Marshwood and then was at St. Thomas. Great coach. So I played for Chuck here at Plymouth. A lot of great coaches that were here, and I think we went to the championship my freshman year and lost, and sophomore year, and then junior senior year we didn't make the playoffs. So we had moved up. We were playing. Playing schools up, Timberlane and Laconia at that time.
So were they Division 3, moved up to 2?
They had been Division 3 or 4 for most of that time. And they were playing Brady in a lot of those championships in the 80s, and we had gone up. I think it was they had reclassified it for a few years at that time.
Class L, M, and S, right?
Class L, I, and then M and S were combined. So.
Like small, because I remember at Concord High, late 80s, it was Class L.
Class L,
and then there was mid-size and then small and maybe even another.
So they had kind of reclassified, and we did that. So we were one of those things. I think we missed out on the playoffs. I never forget my senior year. We lost the last game of the season. I think we missed out on points because Haverhill Mass beat Methuen Mass because Timberland had played those schools. Those schools counted as like points for your wins. So we missed out. I think we were like 5-3, didn't get in the playoffs. And that's what you're always trying. I mean, we talk about the experience, but you're trying to win, trying to get in the playoffs, and that always.
And back then, they didn't have the expanded playoff like they do now with like 6 teams. 8 teams
people forget.
It was just 1, 2, 3, 4, and
and before that, it was
1, 2.
1, 2. People forget that. It was 2 teams
tough.
in the playoffs, and and for a long time in Division 3 or 4, where Plymouth was before my time, but it would be the North and South champion would then meet in the championship. Probably the two best teams were in one of the two conferences. But then you'd win the conference, but then you get the championship. Might have been an easier game.
Right.
And then they did expand it to 4, and in the mid to late '80s.
Yeah, that's what it was when I played at Concord. It was 4, and we squeaked in my junior year, and we were the top seed my senior year. But it was only 4. But it was just, Nashua was only one high school. Bow kids were going to Concord still. There was a lot. Bedford didn't exist, but it was the big, the big 3, 4: Nashua, Pinkerton.
Well, you think how big
Salem.
Nashua was. But people forget, too, at that time in the late
Nashua
80s, I remember, I think we were down to 33 schools playing football in the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I played against Littleton. The last year Littleton had football, we played against Littleton my sophomore year of, I think it was the fall of '89.
Yep.
We played Littleton. Plymouth and Littleton used to have a Potter Trophy. I'll show you in a little bit.
Yeah,
Played Littleton every year. And one of my mentors later on when I got into coaching was this guy, Mark Tilton, who had coached in Berlin.
Yep.
Berlin had football and cut that in like 86
Berlin,
or 87.
Hockey town.
Yeah. And it was funny, he always told a story, but after they cut football, a kid, they cut it in that next year, senior made the Shrine team.
Yep.
Kid, even though they didn't have football that year.
Oh, he still...
Yeah, they selected him for Shrine team. It was pretty good, yeah. Pretty interesting.
Good, yeah. So we're here, and what is this? Is this a science room?
This is my classroom down here. I'm a science teacher.
You're
I know
a
that's
teacher
crazy.
here too. Yeah.
I am. I'm not teaching this year currently. I'm on medical leave for my wife. So I got a sub here, former student of mine. She's great. She's in covering my classes.
Yep.
So it's kind of weird
But
being in here.
You have football stuff.
Yeah. Well, it still is my classroom.
So this is, folks, classic high school, teacher and coaches, they always have some of the stuff up on the walls, even in the classroom.
Yeah, it's got to get a little updated. It's getting a little
Now, is this your
schedule.
coach's office too?
We do have a coach's office too. Yeah,
you do have one.
We did in the locker room, but I do most of my stuff here because during the day you're teaching and you're coaching, so I just do most everything here.
And you got a lot of plaques here. So let's talk a little bit about what are all these state championships? Looks like a lot of state championships.
Yeah, a lot of state championships. I think I ended at 2018, and I think I'm missing I think my first year was 1999.
Got a lot of 11 and 0s here, Coach.
A lot of them, yeah. I was assistant for a lot of those, and
five, Pete. 2009.
We did 4 in a row, and then we did 5 in a row, undefeated. Yeah, we had the longest winning streak in the country or close to it, I think. At one point. Yeah. But some great kids through there. I mean, that's the memories. You look back at those, and you see some of the kids that you coached through the years. Yeah. Right up here, see if I can find it.
2001. So
right up here, if you look at 23, that's Sean Donahue, the defensive coordinator of Bedford now.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see him right in there with his group.
So these are kids. So we're 2025. So these are 20 plus years. Some of these guys probably have kids now. And
Sean's father coached here forever. Tom Donahue with us.
Tom Donahue.
Yep. Coached here, and then a lot of these guys are now. You're getting to where kids are starting to come through. That guys you seen or played with, and that's great. Even some of the guys, we were around at Plymouth State. Some of the kids have gone through. We played with Barry. I think you played. You remember Barry Tanner?
Barry Tanner.
His son came through and played here. Was a captain for me.
Yep.
Just some great kids that have been around. That pleasure to coach. Is different guys. There's a Monty Mungera. He's the Oyster River lacrosse coach now.
Okay.
Different guys that that are around doing different things. So you had very lucky to coach some talented kids, but coach some kids too. But this group here, this is Kyle Reisert, Jared Keel, both were at UNH, 3 stars UNH. Colin Sullivan went to Plymouth State basketball. John Thomas had a full ride for baseball. Yeah. And then there's a 340-pound pulling guard, Sean Zykowski. You got like a 450-pound defensive tackle, Migdanelli, and that's the year we beat Portsmouth in overtime to win the championship. Yep. That team had some high-end talent. But, this team right here is pretty special to me. That's my first year as head coach right there, 2014. I always say if I'm getting in a bar fight, those are the guys going with me. Yeah. Those guys were tough as nails. They were. We weren't great, but I'll take them all back. There's Amani, there's J-Rob, Chris Como, Bad News Hughes, just Frawley. I mean, just a great group. Just great group of kids.
How did they do?
Well, we started 0-3.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had a bye week, week 1, which is always great. I inherited that my first year.
Yeah.
I felt a little shaft there.
Yeah.
And then, so week 2.
Yeah, bye on the first week. How unique is that?
Oh, yeah, I got to love that. That was the worst experience in the world.
Right?
So we went, the next week we lost 14-7, of course, to a team that's now got a game under the belt.
Yeah.
You know, you improve.
Yeah, it's challenging.
I always felt if we played them both week 1, it's a different game. We went up and down the field, then you make mistakes. And
you get a lot of the kinks out in game 1.
Week 2, we went up to Kennett, who ended up going undefeated in the regular season that year. We lost
tough game.
Lost 18-12. We played unbelievable.
Okay.
The next week we went down to St. Thomas. Kumba was coaching down there.
Yeah.
And the wheels came off the bus, and 0-3. And week 4, we're down 29-16 with like 6 minutes to go.
Yep.
And we're playing. Burns was a coach at Trinity then, and
so against Trinity,
we came back, tied it, went to overtime, and won in overtime, and that was my first win. And I always say those guys didn't quit. So we're 1-3. We lost the next week in overtime, Laconia, and then we beat 3 playoff teams down the stretch, finished 4-4, and for 4-4 record, I've never been so proud of a group of kids. I always say, owe a lot to that group of kids there because they could have quit pretty easily. And
well, that's hard, right? I mean, especially in a school like this, right, where the tradition is winning.
Oh yeah,
to have that happen. And of course, your first year, right? That was your first year.
Yeah.
So you're probably going, okay, what's going on here, right?
But in this group,
but I, talking with like Coach Gaddy and some of the other coaches, like, it isn't all about the wins and losses. It's about the guys, the kids. Like you said, if I'm going to be in a barroom brawl, I want this team behind me.
I'll say too,
that says a lot.
That also drove me a lot.
Right?
Also drove me a lot as a coach. I always said about that group of guys, God, I wish I could have. If I could have done some things different, I could have got them in the playoffs, and I felt they deserved it. And that's the thing. Like, and a lot of guys that were around, some of their parents and stuff, like they'd never won. When they were the older group in 8th grade, they didn't win a game. When they were freshmen, they didn't win a game. When they were playing with this group, they'd go undefeated. That group was super talented. The year before them with that guy.
Right.
So, but then when they were the big cheese, so to say, they never had any success. So, they were always like, Jesus, 4-4, that's the most wins. It's the best record they've ever had in their career when they were the guys. So they did really great, and I love those kids. Derek Preble, those guys. I mean, just a great group. Jimmy Wachko went on.
Yeah.
They were interesting cats, and they had a lot of fun times. It's funny. It's a long time ago now, but that is a group of kids that I will never forget.
Year in, year out. It's amazing how all the coaches I've talked to, such good recall of kids' names and numbers and stuff. Even though it was 10, 15, 20 years. And some of the older coaches, older than you and me, they're remembering names back to the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Games, specific games. Like, that drive.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing. I have no clue how many games I've won as a head coach, but I could describe in detail every loss.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate losing more than I like winning, which is strange. It just drives me, and that's the way it is. And then the next year, of course, year 2 of the cycle, we went over to Rutland, Vermont, and played. We opened up at Rutland, Vermont, and played a game, and Mike Norman over there. That was fun going out of state. We always say we were the Vermont Division I champion that year, state champion.
Right.
Rutland went undefeated that year. They lost. We beat them like 54-20, and they went on and won.
Plymouth,
but the great thing is, like Mike said, sometimes you need those kind of games. I'm envious a little bit of these Division I schools that are going out of state to play. I know the games
going across the
border. They
border.
count only in a certain setting. I get that. They do count. All games count. But what a fun time to go challenge yourself. That's the thing. That experience when we went to Rutland, we traveled over there. What a great time it was.
Especially for the young guys, man.
Yeah.
I'm noticing you have the windows out here, right out to the field. Let's walk over there because this is kind of unique too. Your classroom, you can see the football field essentially.
Yeah. Looks like we come right out and see the field. And, and it's pretty cool,
For those of you that don't know on the video here, folks, Plymouth, New Hampshire, we're up in the White Mountains essentially. And take a look at this view. I mean, talk about picturesque place to work, play, and pretty storied and proud tradition here at Plymouth.
Yeah, it's all snow covered now, but it's a great place to watch a game on this hill up here. It's crowd fills it up. It's really good.
You got the bleachers, but most of the people sit on the hill.
Yeah,
right?
Most people sit on the hill, and they all have their areas they sit, and
kids are playing.
Yeah, kids are playing, and we got the baseball field right down there. You can see, and It's this.
And the ski jump.
Yeah, we got a ski jump right there. Yeah,
I think it's one. Is it the only high school that has one?
I think there's another high school that has a ski jump,
folks.
but they don't use it. So I think we're the only high school in the country that has a ski jump on their property that they use. And only New Hampshire has high school ski jumping. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Right.
So. It's pretty good. If it wasn't so snow, we could walk down the tower. We had all kinds of plaques in the tower and stuff. It's pretty special. But I don't think we need to traipse down through there.
No, I think I'm good. But you got people coming through cross.
Well, they have the cross-country ski trail goes across my field in the winter. I don't really like that, but I don't have a choice in that matter. It goes across my baseball field,
especially when the snow gets a little thin and they're like digging up the.
Yeah. Well, it's just
as all coaches know, the field is like sacred ground.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we're very fortunate to have a great grass field. The grounds crew does a great job. Rob Cormier and his crew, they. It's a beautiful field. They take really good care of it. We don't have a lot of fields here at the high school. Our soccer, lacrosse fields over here, but the fields we do have, they take really good care of it.
Yeah.
We don't practice on the field. We practice way down below the baseball field, like it goes way down in there. And so it's great because we're in private way down there, a lot of space. But
well, let's talk a little bit too about because I helped coach at Pembroke Academy and we came up here a couple of years ago, and then you guys were at our place this past year, but. I'm always impressed when we come up to this place because half the town's here. It's a real festive sort of environment. And then you have half the youth program or the full youth program come out either before or at halftime, or you get the young guys involved pretty quick.
Try to keep involved. They like to be around. I used to do like one game, and now we'd kind of do it every game. They come out with us at halftime. And it's just fun. Kids get to come see it and be around. And it's good to connect them in early, but it's great that, Plymouth's a football town, so to say. Yeah. And it's great that we get the support we do in the community coming out,
In the added benefit of, where you and I went to college, Plymouth State College is right here. Plymouth State University now.
Oh, yeah, it's
university. Date ourselves. We were there when it was a college, folks, but...
It was a much better place back then.
Yes, so... so it is kind of a football pocket right here in the mountains, right? So that's the appealing piece to me is like you're in the middle of beautiful landscape and area, and you get to play and coach a game you love. Right?
Yeah, and you're very isolated. Unique. You're very isolated too. I mean, as I told you, big landmass. We have kids that are almost in Lincoln. Like they could throw a stone to Lincoln, and they got to drive down to high school because Thornton Gore is part of that district. You know what I mean? So it's a big area. But so we still. It's funny. We have a great youth program, and we had a great middle school program until this year. It's a part of the youth program now. But we still get a lot of kids that have never played football to their freshman year. Like I can go through kid after kid that are making All-State or Shrine or Chad that never played football to their freshman year.
Yep. And some not even flagged, right? They played some other sport.
Never played football at all. Yeah. And we even get some kids that don't even come out to their sophomore year. I got a kid this year, starter for us, 2-year starter, Hussein Osaran, didn't come out to his sophomore year.
Yep.
So that's, you have to, if you want to be competitive year after year, and I think that's the thing we're most proud of is you got to really get out and you got to get kids and you got to develop them. That's the key. And kids aren't just showing up. You got to develop them.
Yeah.
The majority, 80% of our kids haven't played football before they come here.
You're investing in them in a very first step phase, right? Like stance.
Oh yeah.
How are you envious of these coaches in Division I, right? That like these kids knew stance from third grade.
Stance and positions, but it's just something that you accept.
The center, guard, tackle. This is how.
And the great thing about it is, though, it's just something you accept. And our freshman coaches, probably the most important coaches in that program, and JV, they got to, those freshman coaches got to really get those kids up to speed in a short period of time, and teach them the game and teach them to love it, and and then you got to judge them based on how many kids come back the next year. I always say, I don't care how many games you win or lose, but how did you progress? If I look at you in the beginning of the season, how are you at the end of the season? Same thing with the JV program. How's your team look in the beginning to how do they look in the end? Are you developing kids? Sometimes we're asking them to play a kid in a position that we see for them on varsity. Yeah. That is, if they played them at someplace else, might help them win.
Yep.
But that's not what's important. We're trying to win at the varsity level. Don't get me wrong, but we want to get those kids to develop. And the other thing is it's harder and harder to get JV games, let alone freshman games.
Struggle with numbers.
Yeah,
varsity numbers, let alone JV.
Yeah, so you got to get out and used to be everyone had a JV program and you just schedule them. Now you got to get more and more creative. We got to play teams twice sometimes, and you just got to get really creative. It always surprises me the schools out there that have no interest in playing JV or even freshmen. I just think football is the worst sport in the world to practice. It's the best on game day. But if you were a freshman and didn't have any JV or freshman games, why would you come back as a sophomore?
Nothing to look forward to. Yeah. You know, that's the hard thing, right? Because it's a grind, and as we've talked about with other coaches, it's one of those sports where you have a lot of guys that don't even get on the field on game day. Like you might get them in on special teams or later in the game if you're up by a certain amount. But there's a lot of character to those kids that tough it out and just want to be part of, right? And love the game enough to be like, yeah, I'm just going to practice. I'm going to be a great scout team player. Like we have scout player of the week and things like that to try to emphasize that. But
yeah, we do those things. And
a lot of credit to those kids.
Those kids are so important, you know. And so when I got done playing at Plymouth State, I was out of the blue. Tom Underwood, who was the middle school football coach here, called me, heard I wasn't doing anything. So I went over and helped him coach. And Tom Underwood at one time was the winningest baseball coach in New Hampshire. And I think Dodd passed him, Billy Dodd.
Okay.
But anyway, Tom was a great middle school football coach, amazing. Now, he was crazy on the baseball field, don't get me wrong. The man was insane. But as far as middle school football, you couldn't have come up with a better guy. And, you know, he let me just, like, here you go. You do this and really grow and develop as a coach. And I went down to New Hampton Prep School and taught and coached down there. Craig Cousins had just become the head coach. The coach had left middle of the season the year before and kind of became interim. But there was a guy down there, Mark Tilton, and then another guy, Harrison Golden, and I learned a lot from Mark Tilton. Yeah. And the best lesson I ever learned from Mark Tilton, where, you know, Mark's an older guy, he's been coaching forever. He'd been at Berlin and loved Berlin. I've never met he could never stop talking about Berlin. But he'd left Berlin when Converse closed down, and he went to New Hampton. And anyway, he first day, he's like, you know, it's session 2, whatever. We're coaching offensive line. I remember, and he goes, you know, Chris, you know a lot more about coaching offensive line than I do. You become the line coach, and I'll be your assistant. I'm like, you know, that's pretty good. You know, that's pretty good. And so we go through session 3, and then day 2, it's like session 1, session 2. And the next day, we're on like session 3, and we're doing something. The kids have a water break, and he looks at me and goes, you know, Chris, you probably should give up coaching football because you're not very good at it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And he said, you know, Chris, there's 3 kids here that you're going to coach them unbelievable. They're going to run, but they'll run to a wall for anybody. You're going to coach them up. But there's another 4 that you can get to run through that wall, but you got to finesse them. And there's another 15 that are never going to run through that wall. If you want to win, you got to push them as far as you can towards that wall without them quitting. Yeah. Because the way you're coaching, you're going to be left with 3 kids. Yeah. And what are you going to do with 3 kids? And it was the greatest lesson I ever got in coaching. Mark Tilton taught me day 2 or day 3 of, you know, coaching down there. And
you can't just focus on the 3 all-star guys. You got to focus on all of them.
And you just can't. But you got to realize too that some kids, you can just push them. You know. Yeah. And there's some that you've got to work them a little bit, but you'll get them. Yep. And there's some that you're only going to get them so far. But that you need those kids to win. Those are the kids that are going to put you over the top and win a championship.
Role players.
You know, you can't get them to quit. You got to work them along and get them to develop as much as you can. And I tell you what, I think of that every day, and I tell young coaches that same story. Like, that's important.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it is. I tell you, and it really that formed me as a coach more than anything. And trust me, I push kids hard. You know, you can ask kids that played for me. Of course, I laugh. I push kids now, and some kid will be kind of getting upset. And one of my coaches will be like, "Are you kidding me? I played for him. He was a lunatic." You know, and I look now.
You know how soft he is now?
Oh, they get so mad at me. Like, you're so soft. But I'm like, you got to change. The kids don't think I'm soft.
Yeah.
I know I'm a lot softer than I was, but times are changing. You got to change with the times, you know?
Well, that's a good thing too, Coach, because, you know, part of what I like to ask coaches towards the end is more of like, what would be your advice to young coaches? And I think you just gave a great gold nugget there of like, think of this. It's about all the kids, getting them as far as you can develop them. Some are going to be all-stars, some are going to be role players, some are just going to be on the team.
That's right.
But they have a purpose because you need numbers. You do. And you need practice. So that's a great.
One of my favorite kids of all time, a kid, Mark Dakota, who passed away in the military, and the soccer bleachers and stuff are named after him up there. And his father actually just passed with a heart attack this fall. Great family. Anyway, he it's senior year, and this kid just every day come to practice, is having fun, never gotten games, you know what I mean? Like he was on a red team, a scout team player. You know, if we had a player of the week, he'd have got it every week. The kid was just I just loved being around him, and so much fun. And we're in like the last game of the year, and we got that senior group in there, right? The scout team group are on the field, and they go out there and something messes up. They're going to run our offense. He comes to the sideline. He's talking to me and talking to Coach Lenny and Stanley. He goes, Coach, do you think we could run their offense? I think we're playing Kingswood. He goes, we don't really know our offense, but we know theirs pretty well. I remember laughing, saying, oh my God. And Chuck goes, no, you can't do that. He goes, that is pretty funny, but that would be the most disrespectful thing ever. But, there's a kid that's like, I don't know our offense, but I know theirs. You know what I mean?
Scouting it all
I was kind of thinking, I don't know who we were playing, but I remember saying that was just, those kids every week, they got to learn a new offense. They got to learn a new defense. And then you throw them in once in a while and that stuff. And, he showed up every day. And that's the thing, like, we don't win a championship without him. You know what I mean? Like it's not about on the game day. You win during the week, and you need those kids to get better, and you got to value them. And the biggest thing is you got to get your starters to value those kids. Sometimes it just happens; it's natural. But other times you got to work it a little bit. Like, man, you need those kids, and you can't just send your freshmen out there to be fodder either. It's got to be kids that can, physically that are older, mature enough to do it and accept it and understand it, and you need those kids
and enjoy it too, because a lot of it is thankless in a lot of ways. But if you loved football, and you get a lot of those kids that just love football, even practice can be fun, and they just want to be part of it. All right, so we're back. We had to go inside the high school again to grab another memory card, but we're inside Plymouth High School right now, Coach. So where are we heading?
Well, let's be honest. We came back inside because we were getting cold outside. So
that too, right?
Yeah,
right. It is, 28 degrees or so.
Yeah, I was telling you, I got a chill. I just can't get rid of it. My wife was in the hospital at Dartmouth and, for 5 weeks and in the neurocritical care. And like the first 17, 18 days, to keep her alive, to control her temperature, they had to keep her room at 50 degrees because if they gave her medicine to control the fever, could have caused damage. So full-time. I was there 24 hours a day. So 50 degrees, I can tell you what, my body got a chill. I can't get rid of it.
So if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about that, because that was right before the football season started. So talk about getting your priorities checked a little bit. What was that like? Because that was a tough time in your life.
Yeah,
and your wife's doing much better now, but
still going through a lot. No, but right? I'll say life just changes in a heartbeat. That's kind of how it is. It's like you're going 1 minute to something. My wife was 15. I was 16. I started dating her.
Oh, really? High school sweethearts.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny. So I was actually on the field. We were in the middle of practice. It was a Thursday. We were going to scrimmage Dover the next day. It was August 28th, and I heard the ambulances. Didn't think much of it. And athletic director Todd Austin came running across the field, and he's hollering to me. I'm like, maybe he's like a shooter or something.
Right.
He wanted my attention in a little practice, and we happened to be on the game field. And I come over, and he's like, Chris, it's Sarah, and I'm like, what? So I jump in a golf cart, and we drive right to the elementary school. Of course, she works right next door.
Oh, okay.
I left my poor son on the field in the middle of practice, but but went over, I saw her. She was on the stretcher, and they were putting her in the ambulance, and you could tell it wasn't good, even then. But anyway, it went over to Dartmouth surgery that night. Got an amazing surgeon, Dr. David Kung. Guy's amazing. I could text him right now. He gave me his number first thing. I don't forget. Guy's been great. It's been, we were there. They did surgery to save her, and they had to go in a couple days later, do another surgery to remove her skull, and that's still out right now. But we were there 5 weeks. We went to Spalding Rehab for like 3 weeks. Then we came home, and then we had to go back to the hospital. They had to do an emergency surgery to put a shunt in. But anyway, so during the season, I just wasn't there a lot. They did scrimmage the next day, and I wasn't there. And then I made it to the first game down in Milford, and then I was trying to get to practice once a week if I could, and I was trying to make it to games. But it was tough. And I will say this. That's the thing about a program. If you want to be successful, it comes down to who are your coaches and assistant coaches. I got some great assistant coaches, a lot of them, but a couple guys. My defensive coordinator, Tom Lamb. Tom did a great job. He kind of had to take over the head coach's duties when I was gone, and he got to see that there's a lot of other stuff you don't think about. And Mike Bounds, one of my assistants, kind of took over a lot of the game plan and the install stuff, and he had to call me on the phone, and I might call him at midnight because when I had time in the hospital to talk to him. And he was great. And of course, I always say he was in the toughest spot because then I was showing up, and trying to change things or whatever,
yeah.
you know. But he did a really good job, really impressed, and so fortunate to have a great coaching staff. And we got a big coaching staff, but guys that really, you know, take
long-time coaches, right? Like most of these guys been with you.
Yeah, I wish I had the years in front of me. You know, and there's one guy been here longer than me, John Spear.
Okay.
John Spear was the AD at Franklin. He coached there with Jim Mullaney. They won a championship down
Jim
there.
Mullaney.
Yeah, with Chuck Dodge and those guys their senior year. Scott Bickford. They won a championship down at Franklin. And Dana Andrews was on the team. He's now our assistant superintendent.
Okay.
Franklin won that team championship in '91, the fall of '91.
Yep.
And John was coaching there. But anyway, he came up here and he got here like a year or two before me. So I got here in '99, and then he came up. So we were talking about the journey earlier. You know, I coached at the elementary school, I think, for 3 years, which was, you know, was great. And then I, you know, just had some very talented kids. And then I went down to New Hampton. You know, we went to the Super Bowl my first year, and we won it the next year. And then I came to Plymouth in '99, and I just think I've been very fortunate. The places and people I've coached with. It's just, you know, it's sometimes I feel like Forrest Gump. You know what I mean?
So,
you know, like you know, I just look at the places I've been in the winning that's happened, you know what I mean? Just to be there, just to show up at the right time, the right place, and do that. You know what I mean? I think that's really
so it sounds like the coaches rallied. You know, you had to take care of your wife, and the community, from what I heard, rallied too.
Community really did, and the kids did too. Not just the kids, not just kids on the football team, but the entire kids in school and in the elementary school, but the community. Just a great community that we live in, and it was pretty special when we came back from Spalding. The police and fire met us on the interstate and gave us a parade back in town. They drove her down through school. All the kids were out front of the schools, and it was pretty special. I didn't think I could get emotional again, but you do, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's
hey, that's life, coach.
Definitely, you know, life changes. That's the hardest part, you know, is that you know, and
things in perspective. Probably narrowed the focus a little bit for like what's truly important. You know, at times like that is, you know, relationships, family, community, those types of things.
And I think for me, luckily, I did have football. You know, I think when the season ended, it was tougher on me than it was before, because it gave you something that you were focused on. And when we did come home, you know, some of our friends were coming in and watching us, so I could go to practice for those 3 hours, and that gave me something to focus on, and game planning and stuff like that, and film and stuff like that. You know, and now without that, it's different, but. You know, it is relationships with community and kids and families, and you know, and the coaches we coach against. You know, I was telling you here, this right here, I call this Mirilam's corner. Mirilam Milosevic, who's the stadium system rep. Every time he comes out of our equipment room, he turns the wrong way. Okay, sorry, Mirilam, but I did have to point that out. I know you're going to watch this, so. Mirilam takes a left when he should bang a right every single time.
Even though he's been here forever.
Oh yeah, been here forever, and every time he goes the wrong way. I love that guy.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and but you know, there's a lot of great people out there that you coach against and make connections that way. You know, I was close with Keith Jones. He's done coaching now, and
So that coaching fraternity, because a lot of the coaches have talked about that, just the relationships you build over the years, and through playing against them, seeing them at events, seeing them scouting and things like that, and you know, we talked a lot about the scouting of the old days of on site. Going on a Saturday, watching teams. A lot of teams don't do that as much anymore because you got Huddle, and you got instant access to film.
I like to see live film, and you know, my coaches are expected to go out. If we're playing Saturday, they're expected to go someplace on a Friday night and scout, or Saturday. And John Spear is our scout coordinator. He's always scouting. He doesn't even come to our games. He goes on the road scouting.
Oh, even on
game day. So you know, it's been pretty unique. He actually just retired from teaching this year, but you know, so that piece, you know, is pretty unique. And but you know, the thing I will say is, you know, I mean, I coached against Gary Millen, knew Gary Millen, and you know, people like that. And I always say sometimes I feel like the unwritten rules kind of get lost as we've got so much turnover now. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and you got football's tough because you're competitive. It's a very physical sport. Even as coaches, you're trying to win. You're competitive. And then the trouble is, you know, I see teams, they run up the score and stuff. It's like, I don't, you know, like last week you got run rule time, you know what I mean? You got running time, and now this week you do it to someone else. And that happens, but I see teams that, you know, scoring 60 points or whatever it is, or calling a timeout at the end. And, you know, my thing is this, like, you know, it used to be the rule kind of was, is that, you get running time, you pull your starters, they leave theirs and they go down and score, and then they pull them. Yeah. That was always the thing everybody understood, and now more and more sometimes I think it's, they leave their starters in and then they score an onside kick it. It's like, what are we doing?
Gotcha, right. Yeah,
and, and I think the trouble is, and then what happens is the coach does it, they get a team and their coaching team, they do it, and then they leave because they're short time, and then that burden gets, that anger from other schools gets passed on to that new coach and the new kids. Do you know what I mean? Like the stability, the coaches aren't doing as long as they used to. The institutions, so to say, of being there so long, you knew the guy that was at that school. And I think the other thing too is coaches don't get together as much and just hang out with each other, and then you become once you have a relationship with someone, it's hard to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you sit down and you have a beer, so to say, with another coach. It's harder than to do those kind of things.
Yeah, and Keith Jones did a lot of that, with even having the opposing coaches over after the games for barbecue and whatever.
I think Keith, of all people, was more than that. You know what I mean? Because obviously being very isolated up here, and anyway, Keith and I became friends. It isn't like it isn't like Milford and Sauhegan. You're gonna the great thing is you're isolated, but there's no one close by either. But we were playing here one year, and I can't remember what year it was. It was 2016, I think it was, 17 maybe, and we were pretty good. And last game of the season, I think it was. So in 16, the last game of the season, we went to Milford. Winner was going to get in the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
And we beat them, I think, 14-13.
Right.
And we won the championship. But you had to win to get in. Winner was going to be 7-2, loser 6-3. Winner got in. Yeah. And we won. We got in, and we went on, and we won our first game against St. Thomas, who'd kind of been a nemesis, and then went down to Wyndham and beat Wyndham, who was undefeated, and they've been really good. And we beat them 22-20 and went on and won the championship. But so the next year, again, last game of the regular season, Milford's up here, and they come out, and they'd been doing the spread stuff. Anyway, they come out, and we get up, but they start running that double dive stuff, key stuff, and one of the Erda kids at quarterback. And you don't prepare for it. It starts going, right? So now they're scoring, or they can't stop us, so we're scoring, but now it's like, I think we were up like 14-0, and then they start scoring, so back and forth. We might be up 20, but it's close enough where the game's gonna go in the fourth quarter. And I can't remember, it's like 42-28 or something, I can't remember. And Keith pulled his starters. All those guys, and I'm like, well, you know what? We were going to win. There's no question. But pulled the stars. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, after I said, I was kind of caught off guard. Pulled them before us, and he goes, well, I looked at it and said, he said, you guys are going to go on and win a championship, and we proved what we want to do here. This is what we're going to do next year. We're going to go back to this offense. We're going to do this, and you know what? He said, we got out of it what we wanted, and I always thought about that. You know what I mean? Like it made sense, and and again, he was talking about getting all his kids in. It's kind of your senior game, your last game too, of talking about putting your seniors in and stuff. And I always sometimes have those kind of regrets that you get caught up in the moment. Got some kids you don't get in.
And one of the interesting things that when I talked to Coach Cameron, longtime coach at Concord, right after Jack Gaddy, he mentioned like one of the things coaches to learn is learn how to lose. Too. When you don't have a great team, you're up against a really solid team. Don't just keep throwing the ball up. Get an interception, then they run it back. Next thing you know, it's 28-0 the first quarter. Like, run the ball, run the clock out.
So that's the other thing.
Don't demoralize the kids so bad that they're just like.
Well, not running up the score is a two-way street.
Yeah,
if you and I are playing,
that's what he said too. He said, "Don't make me put my starters back in." Yeah, because I took them out. I'm trying to get.
But the other thing is, if we're playing you and you go 3 and out and take off 10 seconds, because you're throwing the ball. You got to at least take some time off the clock by running the ball. You know what I mean? And it does happen. There are games that are like that.
Going for it on fourth, and next thing you know, you got the ball you have the ball on your own 20.
So it's how it is. So it's hard. It is hard. There's always in different ways of looking at things. But I think sometimes coaches we get we don't see the other people's where they're coming from, but also to have a conversation to say, hey, let's look at this and what can we do? But here's our. Here's our weight room.
Yep. All right, get some lights on here.
It's not perfect, but it's pretty good for us.
Wow. Looks like it's all pretty new equipment.
It is pretty new equipment. We redid it a number of years ago, and then we had a young man, Luke Bisson, who was on our team, and he had developed brain cancer, and and his Make-A-Wish when he was passing. His Make-A-Wish was to redo some of the stuff in the weight room.
Oh, really?
So they bought a bunch of new stuff. That was his Make-A-Wish thing, was because he was in here all the time in the weight room. And, you know, right up until, I mean, he was in really rough shape, and right up until then, he was here every morning before school in the weight room. And, I mean, he could barely function. And we always say, you know, we used to always say, Luke, be strong. But then after it was, you know, be Luke strong. If you can be as tough as Luke, you're going to be good, you know. And if he can do what he was doing,
dealing with,
he was dealing with so much. And you know, you can get yourself in the weight room and do those things. And you know, we've done it for a long time. We do a really good program right now. Tom Lamb, my defensive coordinator, runs it right now. Yep. And you know, we got a lot of kids getting after it, and they come in every day. And obviously, and it's hard, but we have a lot of kids playing other sports too. Try to get in when they're not.
And do you encourage that? I mean, there's the whole debate of
100%.
two-sport athletes versus one sport.
I want kids doing 3 sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do 3 sports.
I
mean, I think it's better for a kid to do a sport than not. If a kid's not doing anything, I want them to come lift weights. But I most certainly don't want them not playing a sport. I mean, that's just, you know, for us to be competitive, we're a pretty small school.
Yeah.
Kids got to play 3 sports. We need those athletes to do multiple things.
And the other sports, right.
Yeah, we need our kids to go from football into wrestling. And, you know, forever, my freshman coach was, even before me, was Randy Cleary, who's a wrestling coach.
Yep.
And then Todd Austin was the freshman coach, who's the athletic director now, is the assistant wrestling coach.
Yep.
And the only reason they did it, I swear to God, was to recruit wrestlers. You know what I mean? They coached freshman football, so they could just, there was a recruiting ground, you know what I mean?
Be a good wrestler.
Yeah, they did it forever. And they'd grab these kids, come out for the wrestling team. That's what they did, you know?
Yeah.
And it was
and
freshman
that helped
football.
you in the long run, because, you know, if you got a wrestler with size, you put him at nose guard, and he will terrorize the center.
And you know,
those A-gap on
those
either
kids
side.
loved him because it's freshman football. What's funner than freshman football? Let's be honest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they loved him. So they said, "Oh, I'll give wrestling a try." You know what I mean? That was, I always say they were doing it for a different reason, but it was that was great. You know what I mean?
So are these the plaques over here? Is this the young gentleman you were talking about?
That is him. Yeah. Tremendous young man.
So what a selfless thing, right? He gets a wish, and he actually thinks about everybody else. Like, wouldn't it be great if the weight room could be upgraded? And
and here it is right here. You can see it, the Make-A-Wish thing right here, Luke Bisson.
Yep.
What a tremendous kid. And I always say, you know, it also, we talk about things, we were talking to my wife a little bit, but, you know, you learn how tough other people got to be, and if they can be that tough, you can do it.
Yep.
You know, this is 22 years, Jamie Palmer. Jamie Palmer and I graduated high school together, and he passed away, and his parents donated money to the weight room, and you know. Yeah.
So a lot of tradition.
It's funny when you're looking at kids that, you know, you played with. And
community. Yeah, right.
Just look back at that picture of Jamie. all the memories just flood back. You know, you start thinking about things. Yeah. You know, you're kind of chuckling thinking about some of those memories. You know what I mean? You're like, some of you don't want to tell, but, you know.
Certain things that should stay
Jamie was good at getting me into trouble, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, Coach, and you probably recognize it, is like, if we reflect back when we were high school age kids, and, you know, one of my regrets is like not listening enough to our coaches. Like, in hindsight, I got so much out of them. I didn't realize what I got out of them until I was older, and I realized, oh, that's what they were building my character. Like, and it wasn't punitive to run sprints and stuff. It was about cardio. Like, if you're going to be able to play 4 quarters and you only got 36 guys on the team, you better be in really good shape. And all these, you know, showing up on time, doing the right thing, the attention to detail, like, those are all life skills.
Yeah, they are. And I think, you know, I push kids really hard, and you know, sometimes I think it's tough for them at the time, but you see a lot of those kids come back. They come back a year or two later, and they talk about how they appreciate, you know. Yeah. You know, the thing was, it's trying to get kids to understand that you have more to give than you think you do. You know what I mean? You have more in the tank. Yeah. And that's a life lesson. Like, you know, I think I'm working hard, but I can work harder. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's just not physical. No, right. It's mentally too. You know, we talk about toughness, and we always talk about toughness in the term of mental toughness. That, you know, if you're playing defensive tackle, you're going to line up and get double teamed, and you're going to make a pile, and they're going to jump on your back, and you're going to get up and do it again. Yeah. And then you're going to do it again. And I think that's the thing. Just be mentally tough, and you know, something happens, don't retaliate, don't get a penalty. Yeah. Be mentally tougher, and that's it doesn't always work out, but that's doesn't always, because they're 17 years old and they're thinking ahead. But that's what you're trying to instill, and you know, and you know, I always laugh when officials talk before the game about, like, you know, sportsmanship. I'm like, it better be, and if it's not, you better let me know soon. You know what I mean? Like, they won't be in there for long. You know what I mean? Like, I had
Serious,
a
right?
kid this year who was doing something, and Dan O'Neill, the official, like took him out of the game. Yeah. Kid, this is Millie Potter. Millie taught here, so forever there's a Potter Trophy. We played Littleton High School forever, Plymouth and Littleton.
Oh yeah, right.
I was played in that last game my sophomore year. People forget Littleton had football.
Isn't that funny how we can remember sophomore year in high school?
Oh yeah,
But I only remember the football season.
Yeah, we used to play Cardigan Mountain freshman football. We'd go up there and play. And it's always a funny thing because you go up there and they might pound you and then feed you milk and cookies after the game. We used to joke around, you know. That was always a memory, you know, like pretty cool.
It's such a different time, right? It's just felt pretty innocent.
Let's go up this way up here.
You know, and you know, especially at that age too, because you're learning football, you're growing like I was really small as a freshman and wondering if I should even play football anymore. You know, like 5'7", 115.
Yeah. The great thing about football though is size is great, but size is great, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
And the other thing I say is this. The thing I love about coaching high school football, the thing that is the greatest to me, is that you get this kid come as a freshman. You're talking 5'5", 115. They're 13 or 14 years old. And you're there with them until they leave at 18. Now they're really a young man. Like, they're a kid when they come in and leave young man. Like, you talk about yourself personally. When did you grow the most in your life? I think it's those 4 years.
Yeah.
And you can be a part of a young man's life during those 4 years. You're a piece of them becoming a man. Like, yes, we're a small piece of it with their families and how they're raising them, but we're a small piece of that, like helping them conduct themselves the right way in the world and become a young man. But seeing them change during that time, you look around, you're like, sometimes you look back on pictures and you're like, oh my God, look at you as a freshman. We call them the squirrels, you know what I mean?
Well, that's another thing like you mentioned earlier, right? You never write kids off because they can change so much.
Oh, that's the big thing, yeah. So that,
in
kids,
years to be a stud, or maybe they didn't get much bigger, but they're so good technique-wise. They're such a great player, you know, like work ethic, all those intangibles you look for.
Yeah. So there's our banners up there. There's the football ones up there. You can see all the championships and runner-up right over here.
Yep.
There's a lot of them.
Wow.
And that's just, we won championships in the 67 to 69.
Not a lot, and then I realized you got two football banners.
So in 67 and 69, they won championships under Coach Walsh, but he left and went back to Berlin, where his wife's family was from.
Yep.
Coached up there. So
you coached, what, if I'm looking at that right, what, six or so state champions?
I got here in 1999.
Oh, okay.
That's when I started coaching here. So I was on the staff for
1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 championships and 4 runner-up.
Yep. That's a
lot to be a part of, you know what I mean?
That's a storied tradition right there, Coach. That's,
like some was an assistant on, some head coach on, but that was, like just to be a part of that, you know what I mean? Like, and the thing with football is it takes a lot of coaches. That's the other thing, like,
throughout those years, a bunch of different people contributed, right?
Yeah, and you got to have assistants do a lot. I know what I did as an assistant, the work I put in and the time I put in, the off season, the weight room, did all that for those years, and then you rely on other coaches to do the stuff you ask them to do as a head coach, to scout, prepare, and coach, and dedicate time away from their families and their kids and stuff like that. It's a 7-day-a-week job.
Yeah.
If you want to coach in a football town, you're expected to put in the time and effort, and
Well, it speaks to the tradition of the system, the coaching staff, the community involvement, the feeder program through the youth football, whatever that looks like. To have that level of consistency, it's pretty incredible, really, when you think about it, because it's done with how many different kids?
Yeah, a lot of them.
That's the thing.
Even
it's
coaches,
like, it's not just, you had a...
Chuck Lenahan was here before me.
Run.
He got here in 70 or 71, I think.
Yep.
And they won championships in 67 and 69 with the coach right before him, Walsh.
Right, okay.
And Walsh went back to Berlin.
Because that goes back to 72.
So there was, that's when they started playoffs or something. I'm not sure why it started 72.
So there's state championships in almost every decade.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty much.
in the 80s they went to a lot and lost a lot, but they won some championships, and then really got in a role in 2000, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got here in 99, and we were undefeated and lost in the first round.
Yeah, because it's
And
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And then we went to 4 in a row, and then and I can't remember the kid's name, but it was you forget, it was 2004. I'll never forget it. We played up to Kennett in a monsoon. We had the longest winning streak in the state. We were doing 46 games, say, some 47 games. I can't remember what it was, right? We're playing up there in a monsoon, Kennett, and they were really good. And I wish I could remember the kid's name. I should have looked it up, but he was the quarterback and outside linebacker and for Kennett that year. And he single-handedly beat us. I mean, they beat us 6-0. The kid was, okay, we're going to run this play. If you stop it, we'll run this play. But he was making both plays. I mean, the kid was so good, you know what I mean? And Gary Millen was a coach, and then he got hurt. And they were the 1 seed, and we were 3. So we played Sauhegan in the semifinals, and Milford was a 4 seed, and Milford beat them, and then Sauhegan blew them out in the championship. You know what I mean? It would have been nice to be in the championship that year. Maybe we weren't going to beat Sauhegan, but we definitely, Kennett was so good, but then that kid got hurt, and they just weren't the same team. You forget how good.
A few of those over the years.
The history of football too. That like people look at their microcosm, but people forget how good Kennett was in those years. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
I played against Matt Mosquita and Perry and those guys in Kennett. I mean, they were unbelievable.
Mosquita, I remember that.
I mean, my sophomore year, Jesus, I think we put 10 guys up in a box and they beat us 24-6. I mean, Perry, who played D tackle for Penn State, was playing tight end and outside linebacker for Kennett. I mean, like, Jesus, kid was a man child. You know what I mean? Oh my God, I remember, just those kind of things, like the history of things that when schools that were bigger or whatever, and people forget about that.
And there's been these sort of one-off superstar athletes that just totally dominate. Like in my era, I think there was Jason Pahopak at Dover, who went on to play at BC linebacker, and he was one of those guys single-handedly beat us during the regular season. When that year we won the state championship, that was one of our 3 losses.
Oh, really? Yeah.
He was inside linebacker, and it was like he knew. I remember because I got in late in the game as I was a backup quarterback that year, and he was still in, and it was just like, this guy knows where we're going, and he's only 6 feet away, and he's
it is
the flared nostril, everything. It's like, he's a real good athlete, but he's a great guy too. And then prior to that, I think the 2 biggest names I recall when I was in high school was, of course, at Pinkerton when they had Ryan Mihalko and Joe Segretti in the same backfield.
I mean, Jesus, no kidding.
I was happy I didn't get to play in that game.
What's Pinkerton?
Only a sophomore.
3,600 kids. You know what I mean? Jesus. I think we're we're at like 617 or something.
Yeah.
We were up, in the early 2000s, everyone was bigger, but we were almost 1,000 in the early 2000s. We'd gotten quite a bit bigger. And I look at us now, we're down to like we're under 650. It's like, and the other thing is you can see the difference. You take away, 350 kids out of your school, that's a lot of athletes. We say, like for every 10 kids you get, that's 1 really good player. You can't miss on kids. That's the thing. There's no leeway. Like we gotta develop every kid. And we were talking about that earlier. You can't give up on kids, and you got to develop them. I had this kid. I'm gonna say his name. Hope he doesn't read about this kid, Matt Varon. Matt Varon never played football. Comes in a freshman, big tall kid. And he's terrible. Matt, I'm sorry, Matt, but he was terrible. His sophomore year, he's playing JV, and he's got to be 6'2", 6'3", and whatever. And kids are just pushing him around. He's terrible, just terrible. I mean, just he's bad. And so comes in his junior year, and I'm starting him at D tackle, and some of the other coaches like, you have lost it. You made some great decisions in your career, but you have lost it. This is ridiculous. I remember Todd, Austin, Randy Clear, the freshman coach, like, this is you. What are you making a huge mistake? And I'm like, he's just big, long arms, and you know what I mean. And I'll tell you what, by the end of that year, he was all-state player. The next year, I mean, he didn't want to play in college. He was just like, 6'3", 245, just dominating.
Yeah.
Big, long arms and just pressing kids, and we were really good up front that year.
Yeah.
Probably might have been either the second or first, third best D-line in school history, and it was they were really good, and he was so good. And I remember, like, how many schools were just like, just let him go. I mean, he was just a big kid, just getting pushed around. He was just going through the motions, and you can't give up on those kids. I don't know how many kids have had through the years that nothing. All of a sudden, their senior year, have a great year.
Yeah.
Had this kid, Cody Campbell Bixby, and he played for us in short kid D tackle, kind of rugged, but he was always tough life working and stuff. And he'd always miss part of the season. He would disappear for like a week. Same week every year. He had to go work at this Boogie and Blues Festival up in Thornton.
Oh, okay.
He had to go work. So he comes into his senior year and he would disappear. I mean, he never played. I mean, he was never, never a starter, and he comes into senior. I'm thinking, we might need this kid drastically. How sad's that? But so he comes to get his equipment. I said, no, you're not getting equipment. Seniors come first. You're not getting equipment. Go to the end of the line. It's in the spring. Get it out in the spring. Right. Go to the end of the line. You're not getting equipment. So he leaves, and my defense coordinator, Tom Williams, like, what are you doing? We're going to need him. I'm like, if he's going to miss for Boogie and Blues, we're not having. So at the end, he comes, waits all the way in line. He comes back. He goes, Coach, I really want to play. And I'm like, listen, if you miss one day for that Boogie and Blues, one day you're off the team. And if you say something, it's a big thing. If you say something, you got to stick to it. And I remember my defense coordinator said, geez, you backed yourself in a hole. What are you, what are you doing? And I said, we need him, but we need him all in. And that kid, I'll never forget it. The kid, he didn't miss a day.
Yeah. And
we're playing Wyndham in the state semifinals. Wyndham's undefeated. Those guys are down there, obviously Raycraft's down there and those guys. And they were really good. And I'll tell you what, this kid, just so tough, he didn't know how tough he was. When they would pull, he'd fall, make the play. When they double teamed, he'd make a pile and they'd jump on him. And he just would get up. And I think, honestly, those kids, by about halftime, were like, whoa, like, this isn't normal. You should quit by now. But he just was so used to it. That's just such a tough kid. Like, he just didn't even think of it. Okay, that's what I do. Like, this is what I do. Make a pile, get up, do it again, and just happy to do it. Like, we won that game, I think, because of him and this other linebacker we had. Like, they just played so well. Like that kid, I just think all the time. Like, and I remember we went to the All-State meeting and he got no support for All-State. I remember thinking, I'm like, listen, I can tell you what, if Wyndham was here voting or, teams from the other conference were here voting, he'd be, St. Thomas, if they were here, he'd be on the getting first team All-State, But he didn't look like much. He just, but in those games, we don't win without him. And there's a kid that didn't do anything to a senior year, scrapper, and, success stories,
So that goes to, advice you would give, which you've kind of already done as we've been talking here. Like, what advice would you give to a young coach, a guy that wants to get into coaching? Like, what things would you say to be aware of or think about?
I think I would start talking about my journey. I think the thing is, I coached middle school football. I then was an assistant coach for a long time, and then became head coach. Like, I thought I knew it all at one time early on. You didn't, what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing. Like, these young guys get in, they want to jump in, they want to be.
There's an art to coaching.
Yeah, they want to be defensive coordinators. So I was like, what have you done to earn that? What have you gone and, go out and coach some different places and see some different styles and pick up pieces. And even when you go to a clinic, it's you guys try to grab this stuff and, I'm going to take this and implement it. And that's might be a college coach talking. You can't do that. Yeah. But what little piece of what they're talking about, what piece can you bring into your program? Yeah. Maybe it's a drill. Maybe it's a piece of doing something. And find that piece that fits your system. We run the wing T and we do a lot of different versions of it, but what piece of what someone's talking about do we want to implement here? Yeah. Depends on, or just program culture-wise. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think understanding as a coach that nothing should be given to you. You got to earn it. You know what I mean? Yep. And then you got to learn how to deal with kids and understand a few things that, like, I talked about earlier, like how hard you push kids. And understanding that every kid is different. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And but you can still push kids. And the other thing is this with boys, you got to have your thumb on them. The high school boys, you know what I mean? Like, there's one son of a bitch in charge, and that's me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the way it is. But
because like we were talking about earlier, right? We were young, 17, 18, talking about what our coaches were trying to impart in us, and I always have to remember, I was kind of a knucklehead though too. I was 17, thought I knew a lot more than I did, and made stupid decisions, but knowing that, like putting that into the equation, like, hey, these kids are going to make stupid decisions sometimes and choices, doesn't mean you write them off. No, right? Unless this is something that's so
there has to be consequences, but you also got to give kids a chance in most cases to redeem themselves. Right. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, I think the other big piece is too is that, I say we got 65 kids in the program. If I took 25 of those kids and they turned in equipment today, we would be a better team. Because you could focus on these other kids, other 40 better. We could coach them up more. Sometimes the other kids get in the way, but those kids are important to your program. You know what I mean? Because let's be honest, I tell my coaches all the time, we're a publicly funded institution. Taxes pay for this.
Yeah.
And they want their kids to be part of it, and we want them to be part of it because they're community members. And sometimes it is tough, I get that, but you know what? Find the fun in it. Bring them in, and you know what I mean? And yes, they do sometimes get in the way. And that's a piece of it, you know, and sometimes those kids make it for a couple of years and they move on or whatever it is. But you know what? Welcome into our program, and that's the biggest thing. I see a lot of these schools, like, you know, I see sometimes play teams like, you know, they got 30 kids, but they got 30 studs.
Yeah.
There's none of these other kids walking around, they can't walk and chew gum.
Caught off guard.
And we got
by
plenty of
some
them.
teams.
Yeah, we got plenty of those kids. But I always say, well, what about those other kids? Maybe those kids aren't coming out. Maybe they don't feel welcome. I don't know. I'm not there, so I don't know. But, you know, I think that's important, is those kind of kids being part of your program and finding a role from on the scout team or whatever it is. And sometimes, let's be honest, they're not even really good enough to be on the scout team. That is part of it. But they're still an integral member of your team and doing that.
You're going to be a good sideline guy or whatever.
Your family.
You know, and that's helpful. Yeah.
And families sometimes fight. That's the other thing.
Back on here, everybody. Now we're out in the foyer, I guess, in the a lot of the trophy area here at Plymouth Regional High School with Coach. And so we were talking about before of the advice you would give a young coach trying to break in. You talked about, you know, earn your keep, start at a place, know you're going to have to spend some time, don't expect to move up too quickly, go to seminars, coaching clinics, things like that. Now you can get a ton of that stuff online. There's like so many different videos. YouTube is like full of it, but don't get carried away with, oh yeah, I saw this great thing at the college level that's super complex, because these are high school kids. You got to keep it somewhat simple. But any other advice you would give to a young coach?
I think the biggest thing is it takes hard work. You have to sacrifice. If you want to be good, especially being part of a winning program, to understand the commitment level that it takes and the culture. And the other thing is, you know, I think too many times, like because we're here to try to win. What gives you the best chance of winning? You know, I'd love to go out there and run the spread and do those things, but we run the wing tee because I think the wing tee gives us the best chance to be successful. You know, I always say, our best defense is a ball control offense. And that's the key. And that's what we want to do. Eat up the clock and control possessions and tempo and momentum and those kind of things. And, you know, and that's what we want to do. And we have a base thing that we do. Here's our base. But we have to, every year, based on who you have coming in, you got to tweak it a little bit here and there. What are your strengths? Based on your athletes. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And what are you going to do? And you have to do that. But you also, you can't go out and do certain things if you don't have the athletes to put in there, you know? Sometimes in the wing tee, you can go out and you can get away with small, quick linemen, you know, like your speed off the ball and explosiveness, and sometimes they're even better. And that's what you want to do, you know, use what you have and stop trying to shoehorn in your kids into a system that you want to run, I think would be the big thing. It's hard to be successful.
You want them to have a good experience, right? Nobody wants to lose all the time and everything else, but some of that is just tweaking it based on the talent you have for even that year or that half year because of injuries, right?
And to me, and I look at it here, I want to win. I mean, relationships, all those things are there, but in the same sense of in that moment, we're trying to win games. That's why we're here. We're not here to play. We are here to try to win a championship. Doesn't matter the year. We're trying to get in the playoffs and compete for a championship. That's our goal, bar none. And I know everyone's in a different spot and whatever it is, but in different toughness. But that's what you got to. Your expectations got to be to try to win games. And what's going to make you successful to win? It's not always pretty. You know what I mean?
And it's always not always what you want to do. It's what works. Right?
Sometimes you want to come out and run this. You want to run this trick play, but you're like, you know what? I'm just going to run off tackle because that's the best thing to give us a chance to win.
We'll be close
3 yards in a cloud of dust. But here's the this down here. This is the. I love this plaque right here. This is the Potter Trophy. My buddy up in Littleton, Daryl Lewis, if he watches this, he'll love this because they won in '71, but then they never won again. And then it ended in '89. I played in 1989.
There's a lot of shutouts on there too, Coach.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah. But Littleton had, people forget, Littleton had football for a long time. You know,
high school, 1955.
And it goes back a long ways. I don't even know what year they started playing. A woman was kind of researching. Wow, I think she showed me from like 24. She had a picture of a team. And
1951.
51, yeah, that's the first championship. 51, 60, 71, 69. Some pretty cool stuff. Here's 1939 White Mountain Football Conference. I mean,
oh, Jeff Beckley.
Yeah, Jeff Beckley.
Punter at BC.
Yeah,
right?
That's Jeff Beckley, right? A kicker and punter BC.
Yeah.
Played for the Eagles for a bit.
Yeah.
He was actually in this year. He came into town to see his folks.
Yep.
Came down to practice, and I had him work with our kicker for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And the next day, the kid kicked a 42-yard field goal against Southwards and kickoff. Mike Boyle, Gatorade Player of the Year, never lost a game in high school, 44-0 in his 4 years when I was captain at UNH. Assistant principal at Laconia now.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Garrett Maycumber was Gatorade Player of the Year his junior year here. I think 24, let's say 27 touchdowns at 2,500 yards or something, right?
Yeah.
Caught one pass for a touchdown in the state championship game with 16 seconds to go. His only catch.
Which no one expected, probably.
Right? Dead on the backfield. It was a one catch, one touchdown to win the state championship game.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Awesome. So we've talked about what you would tell a young coach or someone wanting to get into coaching, but what's that advice because you're still coaching, right? So what's the advice you give to young guys coming up through the system once they hit to that high school level?
Well, I think the one thing is, sometimes my biggest job as head coach is a full-time recruiter. You got it. As I told you, we got these 8 elementary schools coming in, so not a lot of kids can't play for the middle school team. They can't get rise or whatever reason they didn't play, and you try to convince these kids and parents to give football a try. And the point being, and then once you do that, hey, we're going to coach you up as fast as we can and get you better. It's a learning process. So we got to make that freshman year fun and a ton of coaching to develop you. And your sophomore year to hopefully your junior year, you're able to help us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I look at Emmett Nossman last year. Emmett Nossman was Conference Player of the Year, defensive end, stud. He never played his freshman year. We had, I think we had 6 All-Staters, 5 never played to their freshman year. So we got to develop those kids in a short period of time. And it's tough and it's challenging, and a lot of them don't work out. But we got to take those chances in convincing kids that, hey, you can learn this game, you can pick it up. It's not hockey. We got to be skating from the time you're 5 or whatever it is. And the other thing is convincing kids as a culture to play 3 sports.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Try to tell our kids go out and play 3 sports.
Develop all their skill sets. And I think what we see sometimes too is these younger guys that are smaller or don't know the game well, and they get a little discouraged, and you're mentoring them, coaching them, saying, hey, no, you'll come along, you'll get bigger, you got to hit the gym, you got to eat a little bit more and do all those things, because they can't see the vision, right? They're narrow, and we've seen it.
Yeah, right?
So many times. So many times where it's
you're going to be 25 pounds heavier by the time you're senior,
you might be 6 inches taller.
Yeah, you might be. Yeah, you're going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 inches taller. Just don't worry about it. Don't look at the seniors. Just and that's the other thing with parents too. Is today with parents trying to get them to understand that piece. Your kids are not too small. The great thing about football, and why I say football is the greatest, is there's a role for everybody. You look at your team and the guys on your team, big, giant, slow kids, fat kids, skinny kids, small kids, all different roles on the team, and you got 11 guys on offense, you can have different guys on defense, special teams. That's a great thing about it. It takes a team. I mean, that's the thing. You play basketball, you can have 5 studs and be good. I'm the baseball coach here, and you can have a pitcher that's really good, can carry you to victory. But football, you can't do that. You got to have a bunch of guys that know their role. And
11 guys.
And the other thing is this. I know you're a quarterback, guys, but if you're going to line up at center and I'm going to line up at guard next to you, I got to have trust in you. You can't let me down. We're in a foxhole together.
Right.
Can I count on you? Are you going to let that guy down next to you? That you're going to give it your all, know your assignment like that? Once that accountability comes down to hey, I'm playing next to my buddy. That's what makes high school football great. I can't let him down. Or the running back behind my buddy, I got to know what I'm doing and make my block and try my hardest in accountability, not just physically, but mentally. And that's important,
It so is, because that's the thing, right? That's the glue that keeps it all together. Those teams, and you've had a lot of them, right? And you probably could point to the ones that just had such good chemistry. They maybe didn't even have the best record, but they were glued together, right? They just had such camaraderie and relationships with the high trust, all those things you look for. Maybe because we know football's tough year in and year out. Some teams just dominate, and others show up every 5 years and they have a good season. You're able to do that here, at least from what I've seen, is pretty much year in and year out. You're doing a lot of things right. So it sounds like you're encouraging those young guys and casting that vision of what can become by the time they hit their junior, senior year. Because a freshman who's 5'7", 105.
But I think it's that culture thing too, is you see those teams that it just happens organically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you have teams
tight.
You got to really work at it to make it even something in the vicinity of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you look at it, and I think that's the thing. I think I take pride on is being competitive year after year and doing that, building that thing, and other schools do it too. And everybody can have a championship and then a good team that comes through, that organic, they develop and talented and they come together. But you want to do it all the time. It takes a program and a culture and coaches that are committed a lot of time. It's not just here, it's other places. And we take pride in it. And we have a lot of coaches that put a lot of time in. And then we try to talk about passing on that culture to the older kids to the younger kids and do it the right way, the way we want to do it, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we on the field, off the field, the way we practice and who you are as a person, and how you on game day, how you are on the field is you represent yourself, your teammates, your coaches, your school, your community, And that's the thing is like you go out there and make an ass of yourself, you're letting everyone else down.
Yeah,
I see at teams we play kids that go out there the way they conduct themselves. I think to myself, I wouldn't let that kid play for me,
Right. Yeah.
Or he'd learn to change it, but
Because at the end of the day, right, we're thinking about what are these kids going to be like when they're 30, 40? They're going to be hopefully a good parent, a good citizen in the community, maybe a leader, maybe go on to do, crazy great things. But at the end of the day, are they a good person?
Yeah, and you are developing kids
away
too.
From what we instilled in them, their work ethic, and are those skills that we've tried to incorporate through the game of football help them become a better person.
Right, but you are helping kids develop too. Like you might talk to a kid that you have no idea where that kid came from, where that coach took that kid. You know what I mean? Like I might be a little frustrated with how he's acting on the field, but that other coach might be so proud of where he's brought that kid, that progression of where he's taking him. And that's the thing. Like you want to become a better person, better citizen. And but that's sports are amazing things for kids, and I think in that sense, that makes football great. And it is it's a physical sport. You're kind of going to battle. That's what people forget. Like when you're going out there, you're going out to physical battle on the team. It's intimidating for some kids.
You're on full display, and that's one of the things we talk to our team about all the time. Is like, there's no hiding in football because it's physical, it's mental, and some kids it's a spiritual thing because you're out playing in front of your parents, your peers, your kids you go to school with, and it's physical. Like there's not any other sport that has the physicalness. Lacrosse kinda, but football is like
every play. You can't run and hide from it.
No, you can't. You cannot.
It's there, and you got to embrace it. I think, and my kids.
And it builds character at the end.
My boys played, and I always felt they weren't. The different generation they grew up in. When I played, if I played against you, when I hit you, I wanted to break every bone in your body. I'm sorry. That wasn't happening, but that's what I wanted to do. Like. I didn't really want to hurt you, but that's what I wanted. My kids is softer and gentler, and I always laugh. Like we have these kids that come to us that, they've been told every day in the playground, don't touch each other, don't do this, don't be physical, don't do this. And all of a sudden now we're like, okay, go hit each other. Go out there like, what? I don't know. Like you're trying to undo everything they've now learned it as far as how they conduct themselves.
Yeah. Well, this has been great talking to you, Coach. Plymouth Regional High School, Coach Chris Sanborn. Been here a long time, carrying on the tradition of Plymouth football. Like, I think that's crystal clear that you've been able to accomplish that. You've had a good run here and a little bit of a life setback with your wife this past fall, and you've mustered through that and prayers for her and the community and the coaches rallying around you guys, and that's why we do this stuff, right? At the end of the day, it's the relationships, it's what we're trying to instill in these young men. And in the community at the end of the day, right? But I really appreciate you spending a lot of time with me. And today, coming up here in the middle of the winter and after the season and spending time and sacrificing again, because it's all about sacrifice when you're a football coach. That, depending on all the hours you put in. But any final words, anything you want to say to the...
I just think, good having some nice laughs with you off camera. We're talking about our college days. We got to laugh at some things that...
that's a different video.
Yeah, we wouldn't put that on camera, but, we got the... both of us played for Lou DeLoge and then Donnie Brown, and the characters that we saw there, talking to some of the players and coaches that we went through. That was a lot of fun. I think that's the journey piece. I remember that I told you the year we went over to Rutland and played, and Coach Cameron called me late that night, like, congratulations. When I'd never spoken to him, I don't think I'd ever spoken to the guy. Got my number, called me up. That meant a lot, and I always try to see young coaches that win a championship tell me, I'm really happy for them. That's just, I want to win, but I'm happy for them and knowing what they're feeling, and because I felt it. I felt that sting of defeat and the high of victory, and I want to. Don't get me wrong, I want to beat a team when I'm on the field, but when I see them, even when they beat us, sometimes I can see that joy they're having, and I'm happy for them.
Good. Well, I appreciate your time, Coach, and we'll go live, and I'll show you the video. But hey, everybody.
take some time. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with coaches here with Coach Chris Sanborn of Plymouth Regional High School. And hit like, share, do all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you soon. See you, everybody.